Hello everybody and welcome back to Tartarian Tales number 77. This is artofdino.com and I've got some interesting things today from the Library of Congress. And I was thinking, and it actually timed with one of the top headlines of Drudge, that Congress, our Congress in the United States, what an interesting word that is when you think of the word progress, pro and con, and then you think of Congress. It maybe seems like it was always that way, by design, designed not to progress, designed to congress, to be against progress. And I don't know if that's the case, but it sure as heck seems like it. And there are also cons too, so you got that going for it as well. But I thought that was pretty interesting. So this search is actually from the Library of Congress, and I found all these different articles. I'll include some links below, but in the collection of them, I lost some of them. But they are all between 1790 and 1850. I can assure you of that. And they are all very interesting. And this one right off the bat talks about a lot of ruins that they were finding in South America. And I found this part very interesting. The ancient Mexicans seem to have possessed the Egyptian gout for grand masses in their structures. Among other sculptures are serpents of 70 feet in length and hideous colossal statues of divinities recalling Egypt, India, and Tartary. So basically this is saying that Tartary is up there with India and Egypt as far as colossal sculptures and structures and mystery of the ancients that is beyond compare. So I'd like to start with that one as we go into this one. The account of the Russian lamb. Some of these I'll read everything, and some of them I'll just read the good stuff and chime in. But this one is ridiculous. And you all have seen this before, but I found this article very interesting as it talks about the account of the Russian Tartary lamb. The most extraordinary of the curiosities of Little Tartary is the lamb of Muscovy, which grows between those two great rivers Ion and Volga. This plant is remarkable for possessing a great portion of the animal nature. It is for this reason called animal plant, as also zoopites, and in the Russian language, bannerets. I'd like to find more of those. The fruit is the size of a gourd or melon. It has the figure of a sheep, all the limbs of which are discoverable. It is fastened to the earth by the navel, upon a stalk of 2 feet in length. It always leans towards the grass and the plants that grow around it, and changes its place as much as the stump will suffer. And this goes into the Cabbage Patch Kids and Mine and Unveiled and all that other kind of stuff as well. When the fruit comes to maturity, its stalk is covered with a hairy skin, frizzled like that of a lamb just yeaned, and this skin serves it as a fur to defend it from the cold. It is further observed that this plant never dies till it can no longer find grass to nourish it. Very interesting. The fruit yields a juice like blood when it is taken from the stalk and has the taste of mutton. The wolf is fond of this plant as of real mutton, and the Muscovites make use of it in order to surprise these animals. So again, our past just has all these hints, animal fruits and plants that act like animals, are connected by the navel, eat grass, and bleed in weird, interesting ways. There's so many weird things we don't know about. And did humans and other life forms come from that process? Or were there more? Who knows? This one I thought was kind of interesting as well. And it is talking about it says at the beginning, the only thing wanted to complete the ceremonies of the day at the late celebration of the Russian victories at Georgetown in the District of Columbia was an appropriate address for each of the orators. So I found that very interesting. The Russian victories at Georgetown. They don't seem to tell you about Russia being part of the revolution or any of that, but I have a feeling they were. But you skip a little further down, it says the Cossack dress, however, could not be procured for want of a Crim Tartary tailor. And as for that of the Bashkir, the intention was laid aside, inasmuch as there could not be found in all Mr. Custy's flock a sheep of the true Tartar breed, of the skin of which it was necessary to make the coat for the orator intended to wear it, leaving the tail in full-bloom wool as an elegant appendage to the government. Several painters were in attendance for the purpose of hitting off the happy wearer in this new costume. Imperial Majesty of the Emperor of all the Russias for the special regalement of the ladies of his court. So that was what the costume was for, but I find it very interesting that the Tibetan and Tartarian sheep have the best wool. I found another article talking about the Tibetan wool and how it fetched like thousands of dollars for one sheep back in the day. And then they tried to raise them and breed them in America, and I don't think they had the same success. So again, very interesting. It's as if the Tartary, the ancient Tartary and stuff, was very well developed, and as if almost so many of our things come from them, including paper currency, which I'll share in another one. But this is really bizarre. The praying machine. In Hook's Works of Travels in Tartary, Tibet, and China, which is a book they talk about all the time in these newspapers, which are highly interesting on account of the description given of the manners and customs of the people, there is included a description of a praying machine made by the Buddhists with a view to simplify and render less laborious their devotional exercises. This consists of a large machine shaped like a barrel, made of paper, which revolves on its axis. On this is written the most usual forms of prayer in use in small Tibetan letters. This instrument is called the chukor, that is the turning prayer or praying mill, and it is common enough to see them fixed in the bed of a running stream as they are set in motion by the water and go on praying day and night for the special benefit of the person who placed them there. The Tartars also suspend these convenient instruments over the doors of their tents where the current of cool air may put them in motion and so twirl for the peace and prosperity of the whole family. Those who have not sufficient zeal and strength to place on their backs an immense load of books and prostrate themselves at every step adopt this easier method, and the devoted can then eat, drink, and sleep at ease while the complacent machine does all the praying for them. Now, I'm not sure if this is just a weird American old school interpretation of those prayer wheels that they have where they spin and do kind of things, but they refer to them as a machine, so I'm kind of interested in that. But I've seen these things in Tibet, and I think they're just like wheels that move, and people kind of brush their hands by them and pray. But I think this is, again, an American or some kind of other European assessment of something they just straight up don't understand. So this was pretty cool. The origin of paper money. I found this very interesting. It is a fact well worthy of notice that in all countries into which paper money has been introduced, it has owed its origin not to the demands of commerce, but to the necessities of the state. So it goes on to say the necessities of the state in very ancient times introduced paper money into China, into Tartary, into India, and into Persia. So all those places are really the hotbed of ancient activity. And there would be some. In Massachusetts, there was some. It talks about blah, blah, blah. This article goes on for a little bit more, but the best stuff, I feel, is in the next one, which talks about Marco Polo, a Venetian who traveled in the interior of Asia in 1826, gives the following account of the paper currency in Tartary, and this is really cool. In the city of Kanhalu is the mint of the Grand Khan, who may truly be said to possess the secret of the alchemist, as he has the art of producing money by the following process. He causes the bark to be stripped from those mulberry trees, the leaves of which are used for feeding silkworms, and takes from it that inner rind which lies between the coarser bark and the wood of the tree. This being steeped and afterwards pounded in a mortar until reduced to a pulp, is made into paper, resembling in substance that which is manufactured from cotton, but quite black. When ready for use, he has it cut into pieces of money of different sizes, nearly square, but somewhat longer than they are wide. Of these, the smallest pass for a denier tournois, the next in size for a Venetian silver groat, others for 2, 5, and 10 groats, others for 1, 2, 3, and as far as 10 bezants of gold. The coinage of this paper money is authenticated with as much form and ceremony as if it were actually of pure gold or silver. For to such a note a number of officers, specially appointed, not only subscribe their names, but affix their signature also. And when this has been regularly done by the whole of them, the principal officer, deputed by his majesty, having dipped into vermilion the royal seal, committed to his custody, stamps with it the piece of paper so that the form of the seal, tinged with the vermilion, remains impressed upon it, by which it receives full authenticity as current money, and the act of counterfeiting it is punished as a capital offense. When thus coined in large quantities, this paper currency is circulated in every part of his majesty's dominion. Very interesting. And then it goes on, there's another part that says, the only material difference, says an English writer, between the paper systems of Tartary and England appears to be in the process of making paper. In Tartary, the Khan causes the trees to be stripped of their bark and converts the rind into paper. In England, it is the custom of the Chancellor of the Exchequer to strip the people and the banks, turn the rags into notes. I don't know if that's sarcasm or whatnot, or British humor, but either way, very interesting. Again, chalk it up to Tartary as being masters of this kind of paper currency, which again, we still use today. Another hint that our history is not at all what they tell us. And I'm very curious to know if in the world of money collectors and coin collectors, if there's any Tartary notes still in circulation or anywhere around in anyone's collection. I bet they're worth a ton if they are. Probably in private collections. Who knows? This one's kind of interesting too. Reverse of Fortune. I thought this was interesting for the name. Amer. I wonder if that has to do with America. I've never really heard of him, and I'm not sure if they're talking about Timur, but the article says, when Amer, A-M-E-R, who had conquered Persia and Tartary, was defeated and taken prisoner by Ishmael, he sat on the ground, and a soldier prepared a coarse meal to appease his hunger. As this was boiled in one of the pots used for the food of horses, a dog put his head into it. But the mouth of the vessel being too small, he could not draw it out again, and ran away with the pot and the meat. The captive monarch burst into a fit of laughter, and on his guards, demanding what on earth could induce a monarch in his situation to laugh, replied, "It was but this morning the steward complained that 300 camels were not enough to carry my kitchen furniture, but how easily it is borne by that dog who carried away both my cooking instruments and my dinner." And that's just kind of a little silly story, but Amer, A-M-E-R, the conqueror of Persia and Tartary, and I wonder if America was Tartary. So if this land was Tartary and Amer conquered it, that would make sense why they'd name it America. Not Amerigo Vespucci or any of the nonsense we're told, but Amer. I wonder who he is. I'm going to have to look a little deeper into that and see if it's related. Again, it could be a theory. Oh, it is a theory, but it could be completely wrong. So check for yourselves, and if you find it, let me know in the comments. Keep them coming. This next one I thought was also pretty interesting, about the Baron von Humboldt. In a letter from Baron von Humboldt read in the French Academy of Sciences, he gives an account of his visit to the rich mines in the Ural Mountains of Tartary. He observes that it is always on the Asiatic declivity of those mountains that the auriferous sands lie, which contain pieces of gold, platina, and chromate of iron united with platina. And keep in mind, why is all this stuff here and around? Was it because of explosions in the past, wars, battles, and then we're just kind of here seeing all this stuff as it's been covered with dust, dirt, after everything's settled? Who knows? But I thought this was interesting, this paragraph at least. He also discovered a piece of platina of a pretty large size and presenting a crystallization of platina toward the center. These metals are always found a foot below the surface, which is interesting to me. The annual produce of these newly discovered mines is 6,000 kilos of gold. M. Humboldt found in these mines an analogy of position with the auriferous sands of the Cordilleras. He also observed in these mountain mines of osmium and iridium, each having separate beds. Thence he crossed the Kyrgyz, stepped along the frontiers of Chinese Tartary, and visited the ruins of the ancient city of Bulgarid, or Bulgari, formerly the capital city of the Tartary Empire and the residence of the family of Tamerlane. So again, that's why I included this. I wanted that to be included as well. Bulgarid. We got to check and dive deeper into that. So Bulgarid, formerly the capital of the city of the Tartary Empire and the residence of the family of Tamerlane. On the 20th of August, M. Humboldt crossed Chinese Tartary and visited rich mines of beryls and topazes, and also a silver mine, which produces annually above 40,000 pounds of auriferous silver. So I'm curious as to what these were before. Were these storage zones that are then of all these crystals and chemicals that were then blown up or destroyed, and over time they just formed into these certain places? Were they once held? Is that why there's certain concentrations in certain areas, or is it all natural? Who knows? I still do feel that it has to do with the ancient stuff that we know nothing about and have been lied to about forever. So here we go, onward. Now, I found this really interesting just as a guy who likes words and titles and things like that, song names, everything. I always love coming up with phrases and categorizing people. So I thought this was really cool, and I think it tells a lot about what we don't know and what's been lost, because this is a bunch of different names for Muhammad. So here it goes. Muhammad, the present ruler of the Ottoman Empire, was born July 20th, 1785. Oh, the day that we went to the moon. And has consequently attained his 43rd year. He ascended the throne July 28, 1808 at the age of 23. His titles are, now listen to this, there are a lot of titles, and I think they are relevant, but they have to do with, at the end it says something about why, or how long these have existed. But either way, listen to some of these. His titles are Most Puissant and Highest Monarch of the Turks, king above all kings, a king that dwelleth upon the earthly paradise, son of Mahomet, keeper of the grave of the Christian God, lord of the tree of life and of the river Flisky, Flisky, interesting, prior of the earthly paradise, conqueror of the Macedonians, the seed of great Alexander, prince of the kingdoms of Tartary, Mesopotamia, Media, and all the martial Mamelukes, Anatolia, Bithynia, Asia, Armenia, Servia, Thracia, Morea, Wallachies, Moldavia, and of all warlike Hungary, sovereign lord and commander to all Greece, Persia, both of the Arabias, in the most noble kingdom of Egypt, Tremesen in the African empire of Trebizond, in the most glorious Constantinople, Lord of all the white and black seas, of the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, shining with divine glory, commander of all things that are to be commanded, and the strongest and mightiest champion of the wide world, a warrior appointed by heaven in the edge of the sword, a persecutor of his enemies, a most perfect jewel of the blessed tree. The foregoing titles were first used by the Sultan Osman and have been continued by his successors. Osman was slain by the Janissaries in 1623, whom he wished to reduce in consequence of his having lost 100,000 horses and 80,000 men through their cowardice in an expedition against Poland. So I'm curious if the Janissaries are relating to Jain, because I know Jainism is one of the most ancient religions. It's a very peaceful religion too. I can't imagine why this guy would want to be at war with them. But again, I don't know about their past. I only know what they are now. But Janissaries, it could be something totally different. Either way, all those titles, very interesting, and just, again, not what we're told in history, not what we're described. These kings, these rulers were, I wonder if they were more than just politicians, and I really think they were. I think there was a breed, and just the breed in general of humanity was a lot different and a lot more solid back then. But the tree of life, all the references to that, jewel of the blessed tree, all those things, really, really cool. Keeper of the grave of the Christian God, Lord of the tree of life and the river Flisky, like, wow. Very interesting names. But here we go. I'm going to continue with the very last one of this collection, and it is a letter from Napoleon. And this is especially relevant now as Ridley Scott busts out a Napoleon blockbuster movie, which you guarantee is packed with propaganda. Right when people all over the place start questioning the existence of someone or the history of something, Hollywood always pumps it up to steer a big chunk of people right back on board with the mind control and the propaganda. But we still continue to fight it. And this is a proclamation of His Majesty the Emperor to the army, Napoleon, on the 3rd of May in 1813, and it mentions Tartary and a few other things, so I wanted to close with this here. So let's take a look at this, whether real or not, whoever this guy was, I don't know. Was he small? Was he a giant? I don't know. I don't really totally care, but this is something that is coming to light, and a lot of us will together bring it to light as we piece the clues together. So here we go. Proclamation of His Majesty the Emperor to the army. Soldiers, I am entirely satisfied with your conduct. You have fulfilled my wishes. You have supplied everything in your cordiality and bravery. You have, in the glorious day of the 2nd of May, defeated and put to flight the armies of Russia and Prussia, commanded and led on by the Emperor and King. You have added new luster to the brilliancy of my eagles. You have evinced that Frenchmen are capable of achieving. Or what Frenchmen are capable of achieving. The Battle of Lutzen will hereafter be ranked with Austerlitz, of Jena, of Friedland, and of Moskwa. In the last campaign, the enemy could find no refuge against our arms, but in recurring to the ferocious and barbarous conduct of their ancestors. The legions of Tartary have devastated their country and destroyed their cities by fire without sparing even their holy city in Moscow. They have since advanced within our confines, abetted by the traitorous and abandoned subjects of Germany, of Italy, and even of France. They have cried up a system of revolt. They have disseminated the horrors of anarchy, of civil war, of murder. They have shown themselves apostles of all kinds of criminality. It reads kind of like an anti-Trump thing from the modern media. The world will end if you... Okay, here we go. It is a moral as well as a physical incendiary that would devastate by sword and fire the countries between the Vistula and Rhine, in order, according to the system system of barbarous and tyrannic governments to interpose deserts and desolation between them and our avenging troops. So that's what the people want to do. The people they're fighting against just want to create deserts. That doesn't sound anything like, sounds kind of like what our warmongering people do today. They just want to create deserts of nothingness and just blown up remnants so that you can't remember a thing. Napoleon has these, again, the propaganda, you're not sure which way it's heading, but you can bet your butt it's there. So here we go. Let me read that one part again. Tyrannic governments to interpose deserts and desolation between them and our avenging troops. Insensate barbarians! Exclamation. They feel no attachment to their sovereigns. They esteem not the spirit, the order, and the good sense of Germans. They even seem to forget the power and the bravery of the French. In a single day, you have frustrated these parasital projects. You drive back the Tartar hordes into their frightful climate, whose bournes they never should have passed. They shall remain in their icy deserts, the fit abode of slavery, barbarism, and corruption, where man is degraded to the level of the brute. You have well deserved of civilized Europe, soldiers. Italy, France, and Germany render you their cordial thanks. Given at our imperial camp at Lutzen, the 3rd of May. Signed, Napoleon, 1813. And so again, I don't know what's going on, but I know that these people and the leaders in charge of the masses end up steering everyone the wrong direction, and they use stuff like this to pump people up to, to whatever. But they're like, the kind of mentality is that, oh, these people are barbarians, they're useless, they're still following the ancient ways and all this stuff, and we're the nice new kind of strength. And that's kind of the impression that America still tries to give off to this day. It's a similar type of mentality. We are so much better, we're advanced. If you don't follow us, you're weak, you're useless, you're stupid, all this stuff. And it just doesn't really work, because nowadays we know that and we can see through that. Like I see a lot of beauty in the people that live very simply and very plain and beautiful lives in these old world cities that are not on the line on TikTok. They're not just useless. They're not doing terrible, meaningless jobs. They're just living. There's a big difference between that and the propaganda of what America wants you to think is the best and superior style of life. So again, you see that all throughout time, and the controllers are constantly doing it, trying to make people, just steer people with words in the direction they want, and it somehow works. I don't get it, but hopefully we can discover the truth, and the truth will set us all free. So here again, I'll put some links below. You guys, I encourage you to look in the Library of Congress, and not progress, remember, and take a look, see what you can find, and if you find some links below, share them. I apologize for not having the exact links to each one of these, but I'll share a link below that was the link to my search, so you can check it out either way. And good luck, happy searching, and chime in below, add your insight. I love hearing from you all. You all rock. Hope you enjoyed this Tartarian Tales 77. Thanks from artofdino.com, and bless you all.